This African country was never colonized. What if I told you that while nearly all of Africa fell under European control, one African country stood its ground and won? No long-term colonization, no foreign flag ruling its people, no erased identity. In just a few minutes, you'll discover the African nation that resisted Europe at its peak, and the fast facts that make its story unlike any other. This is African history. They rarely teach on it. Starts now. That country is Ethiopia. It's located in the Horn of Africa. Ethiopia is one of the oldest countries on Earth, with a history stretching back thousands of years. While almost every African nation experienced colonial rule between the late 1800s and early 1900s, Ethiopia did something no one expected. Said no one meant it. By the late 19th century, Europe was racing to divide Africa in what became known as the Scramble for Africa. Britain, France, Belgium, Germany, Portugal, and Italy carved up the continent, often with rulers in Europe drawing borders on maps they had never seen. By 1914, over 90% of Africa was under European control. African armies were outgunned, resistance movements were crushed. But Ethiopia didn't follow that script. In 1896, Italy attempted to colonize Ethiopia. What happened next changed history. At the Battle of Adwa, Ethiopian forces led by Menelik II defeated the Italian army. This wasn't a small skirmish. It was a full-scale European invasion, and Ethiopia won. Fast facts. Ethiopia fielded over 100,000 soldiers, many were modernly armed. Suffered a humiliating defeat. Europe didn't believe African armies could win wars like this. Ethiopia proved them wrong. This victory wasn't accidental. Ethiopia played European powers against each other, bought modern weapons from abroad, unified its people under a strong central leadership. Menelik II understood global politics and used it. Ethiopia didn't just resist colonization, it outplayed colonialism. You might hear this claim, but Ethiopia was occupied by Italy in the 1930s. Here's the truth. Italy invaded again in 1935 under Mussolini and temporarily occupied Ethiopia for about 5 years. But Ethiopia was never fully colonized. Its government continued resistance, its sovereignty was internationally recognized. The occupation collapsed during World War II. Ethiopia emerged independent again, with its identity intact. Occupation is not colonization. Ethiopia became more than a country. It became a symbol. For Africans and the black diaspora worldwide, Ethiopia represented resistance, pride, self-rule. It inspired anti-colonial movements across Africa, Pan-African leaders, black liberation movements globally, when African nations later fought for independence. Ethiopia stood as proof. Europe was not invincible. Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa, became a center of diplomacy and African unity. Later, it would host major continental institutions, African leadership meetings, global political negotiations. It earned the nickname, the political capital of Africa. Ethiopia has its own calendar, its own alphabet, one of the world's Esobet Christian traditions. Ancient civilizations older than Rome. While colonization erased languages, names, and systems across Africa, Ethiopia kept its own. That continuity is rare, not just in Africa, but globally. Quick facts you probably didn't know: Ethiopia follows a 13-month calendar. The country is 7 to 8 years behind the Gregorian calendar. It has never been ruled by a European monarchy. It is the only African nation to defeat a European power in a major colonial-era war. That's not luck, that's legacy. Ethiopia's story matters because it changes the narrative. Africa wasn't weak. Africa wasn't passive. Africa resisted strategically, intelligently, and bravely. And Ethiopia stood at the center of that resistance. If you're discovering African history beyond textbooks, if fast facts and real stories matter to you, and if you want Africa explained clearly and confidently, subscribe now. We break down African countries, history, and facts one powerful story at a time, because African history is deeper than you think.